And I was watching myself just tell everyone, yeah, I have cancer. And I'm not sure how it's going to go. But I just found out. And where do you go from here? I think I didn't even know what I wanted to say about it because I didn't know how I felt about it. But that was the beginning of a very long, that was 3 years ago.
That was 3 years ago when we met. Yeah. And it almost was because you had put out a lot of things on your Instagram around the big project that I think was releasing or was around the same time that it was releasing.
Yeah.
So you had, and I'll have you share for the audience, like you had a big monumental thing that was happening that you had been working on, coupled with this diagnosis. So take us through what was happening kind of in your world at the time.
Yeah, so I had spent the previous 3 years working pretty heavily on a documentary about the future of the brain and following 3 patients with implantable brain-computer interfaces. So
wait, what?
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, a brain-computer interface is an implantable device that's placed in a portion of the brain where we're trying to ameliorate function, restore function, or remedy disease. And it can do pretty extraordinary things. So you can implant a patient with paralysis with a brain-computer interface, and it can enable them to control cursors on a screen or digital devices or robotic arms using just their thoughts.
Wow. With this tiny microchip in their brain.
Yes, tiny implant. And so this documentary was really the kind of brainchild of 3 years of research and trying to figure out how to translate this challenging, complicated, slightly dystopic, in some cases, technology to a broader public and show people how incredible it can be and all the things that we have to look forward to as this technology improves. So I basically spent 3 years of my life in and out of hospitals with patients who have movement disorders or severely have severe loss of function as a result of different brain diseases. And so the irony wasn't lost on me that the second that film was finished, we premiered at Tribeca Film Festival in May of 2019.
Wow.
And the day that the film premiered is when I found a large lump under my arm. And that precipitated me going to the doctor. And I think it was a week or 2 weeks later that I got the diagnosis that it was breast cancer that had spread to my lymph nodes.
Oh my gosh.
And had set up camp quite largely in my lymph nodes. And
I just want to pause you for a second because, breast cancer is something I think every woman probably is familiar with, has known somebody who's had it, or, even people who've perished from it. My mom had breast cancer. She had like a 6-year battle with it, and it eventually got to different places. This was way back when the technology and a lot of the things weren't as robust as they are right now today. And so for those who are listening who are like, okay, because you're young. You're young to have that.
I was even 3 years younger when I was diagnosed.
You were even younger, yeah. And so to find stage 3, what was it like, in that moment of, kind of examining yourself? Did you know what you were doing? Were you just kind of like, my body's feeling off?
I was feeling sick because as always happens when you finish a big, time-consuming project. I mean, I was sleeping 4 to 5 hours a night for the last 2 months trying to get it ready for Tribeca. Wow. So I was definitely not taking care of my body. And then the day before the premiere, I get hit with the worst flu, and I'm incredibly sick. And I think what happened is that it caused my lymph nodes to swell up because my body was fighting something, and then the tumor, it seemed to come out of nowhere.
Oh, wow.
When it was big, it was a 2.5 centimeter tumor, so it felt like a small ping pong ball. And I'm like, how did I not notice this? But it came out during like a massage that I was having.
Oh, wow. And somebody was just like, hey, what is that?
They didn't notice it. When I was laying on the table, I felt something strange. But I didn't really think anything of it. And then when I went to take a shower later, I pulled up my arm and was like, oh, what is this? This is not normal. And I'm touching it, and it didn't hurt, which I knew that cancer is never painful to the touch. So I was like, that's not a good sign.
Because you'd done all your research the 3 years before.
Yeah. So so I knew that it wasn't a good sign, but I still was like, wow, maybe it's just a swollen lymph node. And sure enough, went to the doctor. They were even like, it's probably just a weird swollen lymph. I begged for them to biopsy it because I have a history of breast cancer in my family. They did. Wow. And it came back positive. And it came back positive, HER2 positive, which is a more rare form of breast cancer that my aunt passed away from, 20 years ago, before there were any targeted treatments for it. Yeah. And it was very, very deadly. It's highly aggressive. So it's
the HER2?
Yeah, it's fastest growing of all the breast cancers, which is maybe explains why this thing sort of came out of nowhere. But yeah, it was like new reality check all of a sudden.
Oh my gosh.
And life went on hold.
Living in LA, I'm sure you got a lot of options for different kinds of treatment, alternative treatments. How did you make your decision around what path was going to be right for you, especially having, kind of your research brain?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. And I knew that I was going to have to question everything along the way, and that I would somehow have to feel really good about whatever I was doing in order to actually do it. So, I don't know if that doesn't sound like a very well thought out, calculated framework, but I knew I'd have to go down every single path, every option. And then ultimately, I felt very strongly about doing traditional conventional medicine, which was going to be, for me, chemotherapy, radiation, and then some form of surgery, either lumpectomy or mastectomy. Yeah. But a big portion of my time was spent trying to figure out, are there ways that we could de-escalate some of these traditional treatments so they're not as toxic? Because they are carpet bombs, they just go in there and obliterate everything. Yeah. And I think a popular theme right now in conventional medicine is, okay, this stuff works, but can we pull back a bit and ensure that we still get the medicine to do what it needs to do without obliterating healthy cells? Yeah. And so I pushed my doctors a lot, and I ended up, by my third chemo treatment, they had reduced the dose significantly after the first time, and again after the second time.
Oh, wow.
I almost stopped a little bit early. I ended up doing more, but I always ask questions every step of the way. Even with they put you on these prednisones. What are those? Steroids. They put you on steroids. They put you on all these things, and I'd say, why do I need this? Is there some side effect that this could cause that I should be alerted of now, and how can we prevent those? And just being really active in those conversations. And then I also did any kind of non-conventional treatment that I felt wasn't going to hurt the traditional treatments. So I had a whole grab bag of cancer treatments. I mean, I was taking all the supplements that were anti-cancer supplements. Right. I was doing hyperbaric oxygen treatments, which was also really good at sort of helping post-chemo. I was obviously trying to exercise when I could. I was watching my diet and sort of playing around with some of the different anti-cancer diets, although tougher to do while you're going through chemo. Of course. Yeah. And you're just like, it's an imperfect science.
See you next time at the Brave Table.